everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel. I, of course, am just another heavy metal maniac, and I am back once again with a brand new video. It's been a little while since I uploaded my last video, so I do apologize for my brief little absence, but nonetheless, I am back with a brand new collection update, my 9th collection update on this channel to be exact. So, yep, just going to be talking about albums that I picked up. Most of these, I got these over the holiday season, and a lot of these were gifts to me from other people. So real quickly, I do want to give shout-outs to my mom, my sister, and my brother-in-law. If any of you three are watching this, I love you all to death, and thank you all so much for giving me all these cool albums. I love you all very, very much, and so yeah, like I said, pretty much all these albums I got over the holiday seasons, and I know it's the middle of February, and I'm just now doing like my Christmas collection update. So yeah, I do apologize for that, but nonetheless, I'm finally on it. I'm getting it out of the way now. So yeah, really, without further ado, enough of my ramblings. You all know how these collection updates work. We're going to start off with the cassette tapes, which there are not that many in this video. Then we move on to CDs, and then finally we finish off with the records. So without further ado, like I said, let's just get right into it, and we're going to be starting off with our first album of the day, which is Immolation, Dawn of Possession. So this is a compilation of Immolation's earlier demos that came out. This was released in 1995, and this features, like I said, their earlier demos. So on here we have the Decomposed demo from 1987 and the Warriors of Doom demo, also from 1987. We have the demo from 1988, simply called Demo 1988. And we also have the Demo 2 from Demo, which was 1989, and a few live tracks as well. Admittedly, this is a bootleg copy, but it sounds good, and I don't really care that much, and I'm not really too sure, but I would bet that original copies of this are probably fairly difficult to find, and are probably like, $500 on Discogs, which, I'm sorry, I'm not willing to dish out that money for a cassette tape, but yeah, this is a very, very cool kind of collection of Immolation's earlier material, and it's really interesting just to see kind of how this band, started out. And I'll actually pop it up here because you kind of get to see the older Immolation logo on there too, and the inside features a bunch of their older logos as well, including when they were going under the name Rigor Mortis, and obviously they changed it to Immolation, which I'm glad they did, because that name, I think, is just honestly one of the best names in death metal. And yeah, I did a ranking for Immolation recently. I do absolutely love this band. Arguably one of, if not the strongest discography in death metal. Like, really not a single weak release with these guys. And like I said, this is obviously, I prefer like the studio albums to this, but this is, again, just a very interesting kind of look back onto who Immolation were, and you kind of hear little tinges of who they would eventually become, but it's obviously not fully fleshed out here until they wouldn't even get there really until their second album. But like I said, just kind of cool to go back and listen to some of these older songs as they were, kind of a bit more energetic, more youthful, more kind of just scrappy, and just, figuring things out. And this does feature earlier versions of some of their, iconic songs like the song Immolation, Dawn of Possession, Burial Ground, Despondent Souls. So yeah, pretty cool, just little unique chapter in Immolation's history. And this is a pretty cool compilation with, I think, some pretty cool album art to go along with it as well. Morta Skuld, As Humanity Fades. This is the second studio album from this Wisconsin-based old school death metal act, and I absolutely love this album. In terms of just like old school, get back in there. In terms of just like old school American death metal, this is one of my absolute favorite albums. Yeah, the Midwest had a pretty flourishing death metal scene back in the day, obviously with bands, like Broken Hope, and another pretty big name that we'll get to here in a minute. And man, these guys, Morta Skuld, I know the word underrated gets thrown around a lot, but I would consider these guys to be an underrated death metal act, because I feel like they should get as much love as some of their contemporaries, and they really just don't. But man, this album absolutely rips. Like, just nothing but riffs and just, viciousness for days. The production on this album, I think, is absolutely stellar. I would put it up against like some modern produced death metal albums. Like, everything, it's still, it's very clear, and it's, you can hear all the instruments and everything that's going on, but it's mixed super well, and it still has that, very kind of, heavy, death metal sound. It's not like overproduced or overly polished or anything like that. Fantastic vocals on this album as well, and I mean, literally, just pick a track off this album and you have a banger death metal song. Like Unknown Emotions, the opening track, is a perfect opener. Century of Ruins is an absolutely awesome song. Paradise of the Masses, No World Escapes, Sanctuary Denied, The Sorrow Fields. Like I said, pick literally any song off of this album. Great album art. too, which I will say a couple of these albums do have some voluptuous female breasts, so hopefully YouTube doesn't get mad at me for showing some boobies. But yeah, like I said, I absolutely love this album. One of my favorite death metal albums, like in general, I would say, but especially when it comes to just like 90s old school death metal. Like this is it pretty much done perfectly. If you've been sleeping on Mortal Skull, I highly recommend checking these guys out, and I would honestly recommend starting with this album because for me it's really between this and Dying Remains as to what is their best album, but I probably lean a little bit more towards As Humanity Fades. But man, I absolutely love this album, and yeah, like I said, if you have not heard if you not heard this band, you need to check them out. If you're a fan of stuff like Obituary, a little bit of Broken Hope, like kind of Benediction, if you're a fan of that kind of style, just like groovy, riffy, old school death metal, check this out. You will not be disappointed. So that is all the cassette tapes out of the way, only two today. So like I said, not that many, but hopefully in the next collection update there will be a few more. So yeah, let's get now into the CDs, of which we got a pretty sizable stack of that and vinyls. So yeah, hopefully this video doesn't come out too long, but because we got quite a few albums to talk about. And for the CDs, we're starting off with 1914 Veribus Unitus. This is the fourth and latest studio album from this Ukrainian blackened death metal / death doom act. I really love the artwork on this one too. Great album art with these guys as well. And yeah, in terms of more modern death metal bands, I absolutely love this band. I think they just have such a great way of creating death metal that is like both riffy and heavy and kind of headbanging, but also atmospheric and morose and emotional and really great kind of storytelling to go along with it as well. I'm a big history buff, so I love all the the World War One themes and imagery. I think that's all very 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 cool. And yeah, this obviously this is the newest release I'm going to be showing off today. This came out in November of just last year. It didn't quite make it onto my year-end list, but if I'd done like a top 20 or a top 25 instead of a top 10, it very well could have, because this album is just absolutely awesome. I think all tracks on here are absolutely awesome. I love the intro and the outro with kind of the old-timey radio sounds. Again, when it just creates a great atmosphere, and it's a great mood setter for the rest of the album. And songs like 1914, The Siege of Przemysl. I'm sorry, I'm probably saying it wrong. There's a lot of things I'm going to say wrong on this album. 1916, The Sudzerol Offensive. Again, apologies. 1917, The Asanzo Front. The three-part kind of epic song, which is 1918, Second Battle of the Piave River, featuring Part 1, WIA, Part 2, POW, and Part 3, A Duty to Escape. And the closing track, 1919, The Home Where I Died. Such a dark song. The thing I really like about this album is that it starts off kind of more straightforward, like black in death metal. Like it's very, like this to me, this band sound as if you mixed the Asphyx, Bolt Thrower, Paradise Lost, like early Paradise Lost, and Marduk, and you combine them all into one band. You get 1914, and the first half of this album, it starts off, just a lot more vicious, a lot more kind of, just more black in death metal. It's faster, it's more aggressive. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily like patriotic, but it is kind of has more of that feeling of, yes, I'm going off to fight for my country, and I'm gonna kill the enemy, mow them down no matter what. But as the album goes on, and as like lyrically the horrors of war kind of begin to set in, it gets slower, it gets doomier, it gets more despondent, more harrowing. And that's the thing I really, really love, is just, again, in terms of storytelling and atmosphere and just creating a mood and creating an emotion, like these guys really are just nail that perfectly. And obviously if there's like one country in the world that knows war better than probably anybody right now, it's definitely Ukraine. So yeah, I can definitely see how that probably influenced them to in the writing of this album as well. While I am a bigger fan of the previous two albums, especially Where Fear and Weapons Meet, my god, that album's a masterpiece. I do still really, really love this album, and if you have been sleeping on 1914, again, if you're a fan of any of the bands I mentioned, Bolt Thrower, Asphyx, Marduk, Canon Fever, I would also say is a pretty good comparison. A little bit of like Minenwerfer as well. If you like that kind of style, like World War One themed black metal or World War One themed death metal, definitely check this out. Like this band's pretty damn awesome. All right, moving on to Immolation, Kingdom of Conspiracy. This is the 9th studio album from this Yonkers-based death metal act. Obviously, I talked about these guys just earlier with the Stepping on Angels demo, and yeah, this is their 9th studio album, as I just said. And this is a very, very damn good album. Again, Immolation don't have anything even close to a bad release, and this is a damn great album. I believe I had this at number 7 when I did my Immolation ranking, so kind of more in the middle. But again, Immolation, like, they really have no bad albums, so you could put them in honestly like any order, and I would be totally fine with it. And this album does kind of stand out a little bit in their discography because lyrically it represents a shift in their not in their sound, but just again lyrically there's a shift. Because on this, obviously, they kind of move away a little bit from the whole, like, anti-religious, anti-Christian kind of lyrical themes, and they kind of lean more into this sort of like dystopian conspiracy theory, like New World Order kind of stuff. And you can even tell there with like the album cover and stuff. Like, it's very kind of dystopian, very 1984 George Orwellian esque kind of lyrical themes, and I think it's all pretty damn cool. And yeah, songs like Kingdom of Conspiracy, the title track, Keep the Silence, Echoes of Despair, A Spectacle of Lies, Serving Divinity. Like, yeah, I really, really enjoy this album, even though it's not my favorite Immolation album, and I think there's at least 6 others that are ahead of it. But again, Immolation can do no wrong. Like, they are just masters at dissonant, kind of sort of technical, crazy death metal that still just managed to be old school and heavy and just catchy at the same time. Weirdly, I don't know, these guys just have a perfect formula, honestly. And like I said, I absolutely love this album. I am super stoked for the new Immolation album that's coming out. If you have somehow been sleeping on these guys, then you really, really need to really need to change that, because Immolation, not only one of the best old school death metal acts, but one of the most influential old school death metal acts. I absolutely love this band, and this album is no exception. Manila Road, Open the Gates. This is the 4th studio album from this Wichita, Kansas-based heavy metal slash power metal act. First of all, this really cool kind of digipack. Usually I'm not the biggest fan of digipacks, honestly, but I think the art on this one is all very, very, very cool. But yeah, like I said, this band is from Wichita, Kansas, and they're kind of so heavy metal slash U.S. power metal slash kind of epic heavy metal, which these guys definitely, I would say, kind of blur the lines between those three genres. Like, you really get kind of tastes of like both of all three of those styles. Not just on this album, but in this band's discography in general. But yeah, I've been desperately needing some Manila Road in my collection because I absolutely love this band, and this album is fucking just amazing. Like, again, pick any track off of here. Like Metal Strom, the opening track. The title track is amazing. Astronomica, Heavy Metal to the World, The Fires of Mars, Hour of the Dragon, Witch's Brew. Like, again, literally just pick any track off this album and you have an absolute banger of a song. Just the most amazing riffs. Like, Manila Road, in terms of just like, I love this band absolutely for just the guitar work. Like, if you are just a fan of like guitar work and like heavy metal and classic heavy metal, this is the band for you, because the riffs and the solos and the leads all over this album are just all fucking so tasty and so beautiful. Mark Shelton, rest in peace. He was such an incredible, frankly underrated guitarist in metal. I feel like he should be talked about in the same vein as like Dimebag Darrell or like Tony Iommi, but he really does not get enough credit. I don't think. And yeah, his vocals are definitely an acquired taste. I can understand that. For sure. I've personally grown to really like his vocals over the years. Like, it fits with the music, and yeah, they are kind of odd at first, but I've really grown to enjoy Mark Shelton's vocals, and I think his vocal performance on this album is particularly one of his strongest. Honestly, is this my favorite Manila Road album? I mean, it could be. Like, picking a favorite Manila Road album is like picking a favorite child almost. Like, there's at least like 3 other albums that I think are just as good, if not better, than this. But man, like I said, one day I'll do a Manila Road ranking, and then you'll find out where exactly I have this. This is going to be top 3, top 5, if not top 3 minimum for me. But yeah, Manila Road, Open the Gates. Again, if you've somehow slept on this band, but you were a fan of, definitely Seraph Ungol is probably the strongest comparison. I would say, and yeah, maybe a little bit like Savatage as well. Like, if you're a fan of just kind of like heavy metal, U.S. power metal, some little hints of prog here and there, check this out. Yeah, I think you'll like it. Again, vocals, acquired taste for some. I know a lot of people, particularly one person I know of, who I won't name names, but he absolutely cannot stand Mark Shelton's vocals. But yeah, I love this band. I love this album. So yeah, Middle Road, Open the Gates, Banger City. And we actually do have a couple more Manila Road albums as well. We have After Midnight Live, which this is a compilation slash live album. So this features live performances originally from 1979. So this is going way back in time in Manila Road's back catalog, back when they were Still not quite who they would become, honestly. Like Manila Road, they kind of started off in sort of the same vein as like Riot, almost, I would say, where they kind of weren't really a heavy metal band throughout their entire career. Like, kind of started off as more of kind of a heavy rock band almost, that all that slash kind of heavy metal. I mean, that the lines get there between but lines between those two styles do get a little blurry. But yeah, this is a very interesting kind of like live album. I say live album. It was recorded like live for like a radio station, I believe. And yeah, again, this is just kind of a very interesting kind of look back at who Manila Road were back in the day, and like they were still trying to figure things out. Like they really didn't even really come to their own like fully as a band, I would say, until about Crystal Logic is when they like really started to find their sound. But yeah, overall, again, just kind of interesting, to look back at this band, see this more kind of scrappy band that was just kind of figuring the pieces out. Not really something I necessarily would get for myself, I don't think. But again, it is interesting to just look back at this band and see who they were. So after Midnight Live, again, if you just kind of want to hear the early beginnings of this band, I think this is honestly not a bad release. And next up, we have Manila Road, The Blessed Curse. So this is let me check my notes here, 17th studio album from these guys. So yeah, this is their second to last studio album before Mark Shelton unfortunately passed away. And yeah, this is another very, very solid album from these guys. Is it one of my favorites? Probably not. I don't think this is quite on par with like Open the Gates or like even like Crystal Logic or Mystification in terms of like which Manila Road albums are the best. Again, picking a favorite Manila Road albums like picking a favorite child, but this is still a very damn good album. Like I like pretty much every track on here. Like Truth in the Ash is a great song. Tombs of Clay, Kings of Invention, Reign of Dreams. Was it Sword of Hate is a banger of a song. Yeah, overall, I think this is just another very, very cool kind of release. I mean, they are a little bit older at this point. They're not as like youthful or energetic or like necessarily inspired. Like I'm not saying this album's uninspired, but they definitely had found a formula at this point, and they stuck pretty rigidly to it. I mean, Manila Road were pretty insanely consistent when it came to just releasing quality releases. The only album I can really think off the top of my head is like maybe Circus Maximus, which is kind of like the only album I would say kind of leans more towards being kind of just meh. But overall, yeah, Manila Road, I do absolutely love this band, and this is just another great Manila Road release. Again, if you have not checked out this band at all, this honestly isn't a terrible place to start, although I definitely would recommend going back to their earlier material before this one. But yeah, all around, another great album from these guys, and that is, yeah, I've been desperately needing some more Manila Road in my collection, and I finally have 3 of their albums now, so I'm pretty happy about that. Oppressor, Solstice of Oppression. This is the debut album from this Chicago, Illinois based technical death metal slash brutal death metal kind of act. Oppressor are kind of an interesting band. Like they occupy a sort of odd niche within early 90s American death metal where yeah, you could kind of lump these guys under like tech death. Like there's a lot of stuff on here that's very, very comparable to like sort of mid-era death, particularly like human era death, and where it's kind of got the kind of more jazzy moments, and it's very, very technical. And even stuff like Nocturnus, I would say, is a pretty strong comparison. But it's also got some moments on here that are just like flat out brutal. Like it's got a lot of moments on here that are kind of like straight up kind of like suffocation worship. Like it just kind of goes full, just relentless crushing brutal death metal. The vocals in this album definitely I would say are more in line with brutal death metal. Like they stick to a more kind of low growly register. They don't go for like the kind of more high vocals that are often common in tech death, like mid era death. But yeah, so kind of classifying this album is a little bit tricky because yeah, you could call it tech death, you could call it brutal death, you could call it brutal tech death, even though honestly I don't even know how I feel about that label because like comparing them to other brutal tech death bands like Deeds of Flesh or like Defeated Sanity, I feel like these guys still quite don't really fit within that pack. But regardless of how you classify this genre, I absolutely love this album. Again, I consider this to be kind of an overlooked by many people old school death metal album. Like yeah, literally just pick any track off this album. Like you have an absolute banger song like Solstice of like Seasons is an absolutely amazing opener. Eclipse into Eternity and the Angels Fell. Genocide, Rotted Paradise, As Blood Flows. Like again, these songs they're very, very technical, but this is the kind of tech depth that I appreciate because even though it's technical, it's still very riffy. It's still just got great death metal hooks and melodies in it. Again, not like pretty melodies, but death metal ones. It doesn't get all lost in this like hyper technical wankery where it's just blah, 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 all noodly and just kind of like showing off how technical they can be without writing actual good songs. Like I feel like a lot of tech death can be. Like this is still just exceptionally well written death metal with again some very brutal moments that are very akin to like early Suffocation and early Cannibal Corpse and stuff like that. So yeah, if you like any of the bands that I mentioned, I feel like you absolutely need to check this album out. I for one absolutely love them. This is definitely my favorite album from these guys, which they were fairly short-lived their time. I know they're back now playing like live shows and stuff. I don't know if they plan on releasing new music, but yeah, this is an absolutely amazing album, and we'll talk about their other two albums in a little bit. So yeah, stay tuned. But yeah, Solstice of Oppression. This is just another absolute banger death metal album. And speaking of Oppressor, we have their second album, Agony. So this came out, I believe, 2 years after Solstice of Oppression came out, and this is a little bit of a shift in their sound. Like this album definitely, I would say, leans more into like the brutal side of death metal than like Solstice of Oppression does. Like even though it's still very technical, even though it's still got a lot of that kind of jazzy, tech moments like you would get in like a mid-era death album. It's definitely more leaning a little bit more to the brutal side. Like this, I would say, is a bit more comparable to like Suffocation, or even there's like some moments in here that honestly feel like Pyrexia almost, where it's just kind of like flat out like brutal death metal. But yeah, even though this album is a bit, and the production is definitely different too. Production on whereas Solstice of Oppression, the production was a bit more clear, still like devastatingly heavy, but a bit more clear. This album is definitely a little bit muddier and a little bit more gritty and raw sounding, which I actually do like. So I think gives again kind of gives it a different mood and feel really than Solstice of Oppression did. But I still love all the songs on this album. Like yeah, songs like In Exile, Passage, Valley of Thorns, I Am Darkness, Carnal Voyage. Like again, I think pretty much every track on this album is a banger. I'm not gonna say no to anything on this album, even though again I am personally a bigger fan of Solstice of Oppression. This is still another absolute banger of an album. So again, if you're a fan of if you're a fan of any of the bands that I mentioned, definitely check this out. Again, kind of an underrated Midwest death metal band, I would say. So yeah, Oppressor, Agony, banger, banger, banger album. Sabat in Venom, and this is the Japanese pressing with the little obi as well. I'm going to take it off because it really does not want to stay on there. Kind of hard to keep them on when you take the plastic off of once you take them out of the packaging. But yeah, this is the debut album from this Japanese black thrash slash black metal act. Sabat is kind of another one of those bands where I would say they kind of occupy a few different spaces because yeah, a lot of people kind of call them just like Japanese Venom or like Venom worship, and yeah, there's definitely a lot of Venom in Sabat's sound, but I honestly feel like Sabat got a lot heavier than Venom like ever did. Where this album came out in 1991, so it came out at a very interesting time in like black metal's history, where the first wave was slowly dying out and the second wave was taking its place. With bands like Darkthrone would come out just a couple years later and everything. But yeah, I do really really like this album. Again, it's kind of you call it like a black thrash album, you call it like a just kind of a first wave black metal album. You could call it just a black metal album if you really want to, if you don't really count the first wave as a genre. But yeah, I do absolutely love this album. Like again, pretty much every track on here I love. Like Satan Bless You, which just is kind of a fun title too. Evil Nations, Reek of Cremation, Death Temptation, Eviler or Eviler, Dead March, Carcass Voice. Yeah, again, it's very kind of raw. There's a lot of punk energy. But it's also very kind of like just evil sounding as well. Even though there's a lot of fun and a lot of a little bit of humor as well to these guys, I would say a lot of it is just kind of very very evil kind of early black metal sound. There's some speed metal moments on here which this is personally not my favorite Sabat album. I think they would get a little bit better with albums like Evoke, or like especially albums like The Dwelling, which I think is an underrated gem of an album. Yeah, this is still a very very strong start for these guys. Like this pretty much captures everything that's great about Sabat. Like again, it's got all the energy, it's got all the all their different styles kind of combined into one album. Even though I think they would probably flesh out these ideas a little bit more with later releases, but yeah, if you love bands like definitely Venom, Mystifier, little bit of Celtic Frost, a little bit of like early Samael. Like if you like that kind of strange style, especially of like kind of bands that exist in this weird middle ground between the first wave and the second wave, or first wave bands that came out during the second wave type thing. Check this out. Midnight, I will say, is probably a good comparison. Although I say again a little bit more on the black metal side to me than bands like Venom or Midnight, but still very, very, very good. Highly, highly recommend that you check this out if you have not heard it. I'm gonna slide the Obi back on there as well. Again, with these, you gotta keep these because they're pretty damn cool, and so it's gonna stay on there for now. And next up, we have Sabbat with I forget the name of this album, Blading Evil Muska Live, however you say that last word. But yeah, this is a live album from these guys, which they have quite a few live albums, I will say. And again, this is usually honestly not. This was an album that was gifted to me, so this isn't the kind of album I would usually get for myself. Again, usually I don't buy live albums unless they're very iconic live albums or anything. But yeah, overall, I do actually like that this is a pretty cool live album. Like again, it's very raw sounding. It's a lot of fun though. It's kind of fun to just put on these live albums and like pretend that you're there and stuff. So yeah, it's fun. I mean, they play a bunch of their classics on here, like the aforementioned "Satan Bless You" and "Evil Nations" off of in Venom. They play, Black Metal Scythe, Sound Devil Lucifer, Blackfire, and Hellfire. Don't get those two mixed up. But yeah, again, just kind of a fun live album these guys. Christ Pillars, I think, is kind of a funny name too. So yeah, overall, it's a fun live album. So I'm not gonna turn it down. It's just fun. Sacrifice, Volume 6. This is the sixth and latest studio album from these Ontario-based thrashers, and yeah, Sacrifice are one of my all-time favorite thrash metal acts, and yeah, I absolutely love this band. They wrote, in my opinion, probably one of the two of the greatest thrash albums of all time, Forward Determination and Soldiers of Misfortune. Soldiers of Misfortune being my personal favorite thrash metal album of all time. I have these guys' first three albums on cassette. I think, again, absolutely fucking incredible music, and yeah, this was their comeback album, which they released after their comeback album, which came out in 2011. So yeah, they put out a comeback album only to wait another 14 years for another comeback album, which kind of a strange decision, but you ask me. But nonetheless, they are back, and yeah, this came out in January 2025, and my god, this album is absolutely fucking awesome. Like, yeah, I think all the tracks on here are absolutely awesome. I believe this was the first album review I ever did for 2025, actually. Yeah, songs like Comatose, Antidote of Poison, Missile, Underneath Millennia, Black Hashish is a kind of a cool instrumental, Incoming Mass Extinction, We Will Not Survive. And yeah, I just really, really do love this band, and yeah, again, I love all the tracks on here. I love kind of cool album art to go along with it as well, which admittedly the CD did get a little bit cracked, so I might have to get a new case for it. But the CD itself is fine. It's just a case that's cracked. But yeah, I think this was an absolutely one hell of a comeback album. Didn't quite make it into my top 10 albums of 2025. It did make it to my honorable mentions. Again, if I had done like a top 15 or top 20, it would have been on there for sure, because this album was an absolute ass ripper. And I mean, ass ripper, that kind of sounds like a bad term. Ass kicker is kind of what I meant to say. But yeah, great production on this album. Again, this is just old school thrash metal. I will say kind of the proggy elements don't really pop up until you get to tracks like Black Hashish. So if you're expecting stuff, like this is, I would say, more comparable to like, maybe Torment and Fire and like the ones I condemn rather than Forward Determination or Soldiers of Misfortune. But regardless, absolute ripper of an album. I do love it, and yeah, I'm super happy these guys are back now. Hopefully one day I'll catch them live, because this band absolutely rules. They're possibly, in my opinion, probably the best metal band to come out of Canada, which I know might be a bold statement considering we have a lot of great metal bands, don't get me wrong, but man, these guys just consistently awesome with every single release. And the final CD we have today is a bit of an oddity, but is nonetheless a very good album. Unsane Sterilize. So this is the 8th and currently final studio album from these guys. I'm not sure if this band is still making new music. I'm a bit fuzzy on that, so please enlighten me in the comments if you do know for sure. But yeah, like I said, this is the band's 8th studio album from this New York based not quite metal act. I don't know. This band's kind of odd. Like, they're very heavy, but not in like a metal way. Like, this is more in line with like noise rock and post-hardcore and even a little bit of that kind of New York hardcore. sound. Like, yeah, these guys, this was kind of a blind buy for me because I will say that I want to say that specifically Necrotic Nick from the Falls of Metal mentioned these guys and he kind of recommended that I check them out. I saw the CD in the Noise Agony Mayhem store, which I will say a few of these albums were from Noise Agony Mayhem in Nanaimo, British Columbia. So check out that store if you're ever in the area. Great fucking great lovely couple that runs it, and they're absolutely awesome. And yeah, this is where I got that album, and it's only $10. So I was like, screw it, it's $10. I'll buy it, see what's about. If I don't like it, it's only $10. But yeah, this is a very, yeah, I do really dig this album. Like, again, it's not metal, but it's still very heavy. Like, it's very noisy, it's screechy, it's squawky. The guitars just kind of screech and squeal throughout the whole album. But you also do get pockets of groove. You get pockets of, very kind of, just kind of hardcore moments on here. But it's very abrasive, it's very caustic. I would say that even though it's not quite metal, like honestly, I could see these guys, kind of playing at like a metal festival or something. Because I would honestly put this in line with a lot of like kind of sludge metal bands. Like honestly, there's stuff in here that reminds me a lot of like Fudge Tunnel, just like kind of like a less metal Fudge Tunnel. But yeah, for a complete blind buy, honestly, for me, I really really dig this band. Like yeah, songs like Factory, The Grind, No Reprieve, Distance, A Slow Reaction, and We're Fucked, which honestly feels like a pretty apt song given the times that we're currently living through. But yeah, overall, I do really, really dig this album. And I went back and listened to Occupational Hazard by this band as well. So I've only heard 2 Unsane albums to date, but I'm definitely gonna spend a lot more time with this band's back catalog because yeah, this album's absolutely awesome, and Occupational Hazard was maybe even better. But yeah, I do really, really dig this band from what I've heard so far. So yeah, if you're a fan of stuff like I compared this again to Fudge Tunnel, and like kind of again noise rock post-hardcore bands like stuff like Helmet, I think is also kind of close a little bit. So if you like those bands, but again just kind of like a less metal version, a bit more of a punky noise rock version of those bands, check this out. I think this is pretty damn cool. All right, so that's actually all the CDs out of the way, so pretty sizable stack there. But now we move on to what I think is actually the biggest stack on here, the vinyls. So let's get right into it. We have Black Sabbath Mob Rules. So this is the 10th? Yes, 10th studio album from this, legendary English heavy metal band. I mean, come on, it's Black Sabbath. They don't need any introduction. Everyone already knows everything about Black Sabbath. If you've never heard of Black Sabbath, then you're probably just not a metalhead, to be perfectly honest. I mean, yeah, they invented the genre, so I mean, of course, everyone knows who they are, and this is still when I did my Black Sabbath ranking, I had this at number 3 on my list, and I still stand by that. I think this is an absolutely amazing album. This is my favorite album of the Dio era, even though I absolutely love Heaven and Hell too. Mob Rules to me is just ever so slightly better than Heaven and Hell. It's, yeah, I mean, every single track on this album, like, again, just pick one. I mean, Sign of the Southern Cross is my personal favorite Black Sabbath song. That song's just this dark, gloomy masterpiece. Turn Up the Night is an amazing song. Country Girl, Over and Over, Falling Off the Edge of the World, Voodoo. Like, again, I've named almost every single track off the album because it's just such an incredible album. Not as, like, doomy or as, like, kind of stonery as, like, their earlier material. Like, I would say this is definitely, not quite super comparable to stuff like Master of Reality, but still, just kind of for, like, classic heavy metal, still has some doomy parts. Like, I think Sign of the Southern Cross definitely is a very doomy song. So still doomy in parts, but definitely more leaning towards that classic heavy metal sound. Of course, with Dio on the vocals, him being a much more kind of traditional metal vocalist compared to, Ozzy Osbourne, who kind of has a bit more of that doomy delivery, at least back in the early day. And of course, this was produced by the one and only Martin Birch, who produced a lot of Iron Maiden's albums back in the day as well. So yeah, their first album to feature Vinny Appice on the drums rather than Bill Ward, and he does a great performance. And yeah, overall, I just do really, really love this album. And this was actually gifted to me from my grandpa, because this is a shout out to my grandpa as well, because this was an old album that originally belonged to my dad back when he was a teenager in the 80s. So it's kind of a cool piece of personal history for me as well to have an album that my dad, had back in the day as well. So I think that's pretty neat, and that's pretty cool. So yeah, Black Sabbath, Mob Rules, beautiful masterpiece of an album. I'll just stack it right there. Cannibal Corpse Chaos Horrific. So this is the 16th studio album from this legendary, originally New York but now Florida-based death metal act, and this was a gift to me from my sister and brother-in-law, so her husband. But it's also really fucking cool because look at that, it is signed by all the members of the band. Hopefully you can see with the glare, but yeah, signed by all the members of the band. Like how fucking sick is that? Like that's so fucking cool. And yeah, this is an absolutely awesome, amazing album. I mean, it's Cannibal Corpse. Like they can do no wrong, honestly. Like even the weakest Cannibal Corpse albums, I still think are pretty good. And yeah, they're just grossly consistent. Like they really have not evolved or changed their sound that much over like I would say the past 10, 15 years. Then they really don't need to. Like they found their niche, they found their groove, and they're gonna stick to it, and they're just gonna keep churning out awesome old school death metal. And yeah, this is just another example of that. I forget where exactly I had this ranked when I did my Cannibal Corpse ranking. I believe I had it somewhere in the middle, like number 9, number 8, probably somewhere in there. I'd have to go back and rewatch it because I honestly don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, songs like Frenzied Feeding, Blood Blind. Blood Blind is a beast of a song. Vengeful Invasion, Fracture and Refracture, Drain You Empty, Pitchfork Impalement. Some great classic Cannibal Corpse album art as well with a bunch of kids, I guess, fighting off zombies. I mean, they kind of look like, I don't know if they're supposed to be kids or like adults. They kind of look like children to me. Maybe they're teenagers. Who knows? But yeah, fighting off zombies. It's gory. It's awesome. And I mean, again, it's Cannibal Corpse doing what Cannibal Corpse does, and they really don't need to do anything better because yeah, I absolutely love Cannibal Corpse. I think their sound is really really awesome, and yeah, this again, Cannibal Corpse just have found their niche, and they're gonna keep doing it. So would I take this over like their classic albums like The Bleeding or like even like Wretched Spawn, which was my number one? No, but it's still a damn good album. So yeah, Cannibal Corpse, Chaos Horrific, and I can't wait to see whenever Cannibal Corpse gets around to releasing their new studio album, which whenever that is, because yeah, it's Cannibal Corpse. It's gonna be sick. Oh, knocking over. Whoops, knocked over a couple of the CDs. Don't worry, they will be fine. But we have another vinyl here to talk about. This is Disgorge Demo Impalement. I notice the sleeve here is a little bit ripped, so I'll have to probably get a new one. But this is a compilation of Disgorge's, excuse me, first 2 demos. So this features their Cognitive Lust of Mutilation demo, which came out in 1992, and their demo from 1995, simply called Demo 1995. And yeah, Disgorge, for those of you who don't know, this is specifically the California brutal death metal Disgorge, not to be confused with the Mexican gore grind Disgorge, which I do enjoy both those bands, but I'm definitely more partial to California Disgorge because, in terms of just like old school, like kind of more, I guess you call it caveman brutal death metal that's just focused on being, heavy as shit and just kind of not necessarily dumb as shit, but just, again, being heavy and simple and riffy. Disgorge nail that sound. Like I think all 4 of their albums are really, really brilliant. And again, much like Stepping on Angels Before Dawn, this is a very kind of interesting, kind of look back at seeing who Disgorge were back in the day and kind of seeing hearing the early roots of their sound and who they would kind of become later. Cognitive Lust and Mutilation demo does not feature Maddie Way on vocals, which Maddie Way I definitely think is the better vocalist compared to Brian Ugarcia, so I'm probably saying your last name wrong, sorry, because Maddie Way is just, I don't know how that man does his vocals, but it's just absolutely amazing, and, but yeah, I think both these demos, again, they're pretty cool. It feature some of their songs that would become classics later, like Wombful of Scabs and Cranial Impalement, and, yeah, Disentomb and Carnally Decimated. And again, if you like stuff, the production's definitely more raw and obviously more demo-ish than their full-length studio material, which I obviously do prefer the full-length studio albums like Cranial Impalement, which obviously this art is an homage to, which I think is pretty damn cool. But yeah, this is just another really kind of cool collection of very, very well, even though they're early demos, they're still very well written, just, fun, brutal, groovy death metal, and yeah, I just love that style, and I think Disgorge really pulls it off very well. If you have been sleeping on Disgorge, then I would recommend getting into them if you are a fan of bands like, again, if you like stuff like Suffocation and like less technical, like stuff like, Pyrexia and Gorgasm, bands like that. Disgorge is an absolutely essential brutal death metal band in my opinion, and this is just another cool collection of their early demos, which just kind of gives, a very interesting insight into who this band were back in the day. So yeah, Disgorge, Demo Impalement, pretty damn cool. Next up, we have Impaled Nazarene's Rapture. This is the fifth studio album from this Finnish black metal band, and this is, I'm not going to pull out the vinyl because I don't want to, potentially, make a mess, but this is the donation charity of Kharkiv edition, so it features a very beautiful blue and white vinyl, which I think is just absolutely very, very, very pretty. But yeah, this, like I said, this is the fifth studio album from this Finnish black metal, pretty legendary Finnish black metal band. And the thing I really like about Impaled Nazarene is that they're not your prototypical Finnish black metal band. Like, when you think Finnish black metal, you think bands like Sargeist, Horna, and, Behexen, bands like that. Just that kind of Stank Warmaster, that very raw, but very riffy kind of style of, very cold, grim, desolate black metal. Like, these guys definitely have a much more unique sound. Like, there's definitely a lot of stuff in here that is, it's very, obviously it's black metal. There's a lot of black metal vocals. It's more a lot of black metal forward, but they combine a lot of outside elements. Like, there's heavy elements of thrash and punk and grindcore and even like speed metal, like Motorhead, in all throughout their sound. Like, they combine all these elements in their black metal sound, and it creates a sound that's both a lot of fun, but also very, very heavy and just, pretty punishing to listen to at times. Like, so there are moments on here where it just gets flat out brutal by black metal standards. And yeah, songs like "Penis at Circes," which I think is another entertaining title, very entertaining song titles with this band as well. 6 Degree Mindfuck, Iron Fist with an Iron Will, Angel Rectums Do Bleed. I just really like the title of that song. Goat Vomit and Gas Masks, Fallout Theory in Practice, Burst Command Till War, Return of the Nuclear Gods, Nuclear Metal Retaliation. Again, 16 tracks on this album. It's fiercely punky, fiercely thrashy, fiercely just, fuck you, we're Finnish black metal, which I feel like fuck you, we're Finnish black metal is pretty much the motto of this band. But yeah, I am going to be ranking Impaled Nazarene pretty soon, so you'll be able to hear my full thoughts on this band. And Rapture is another pretty damn good release from these guys. Is it my favorite? You'll have to find out in the ranking, but yeah, I will say that this is a damn good album, and it will probably rank fairly highly when I do my Impaled Nazarene ranking. So yeah, do stay tuned for that. Alright, and we do have one more Impaled Nazarene release. This is Death Comes in 26 Carefully Selected Pieces, which I had to read the title there, which I could barely read because they went for this. I'll show you the back as well. They went for this kind of invisible ink style where you can kind of barely see it there. I don't really know why they did that. I mean, it's kind of a cool gimmick, I guess, but you can only really read it at certain light angles. So yeah, it's a bit annoying, but yeah, this is a live track, as the title suggests, featuring 26 of their songs, and this features a lot of their classics on here, like Sado Goat, Total War, Winter War, The Horny and the Horned. Again, I'm trying to read the fucking track list down here, but it's hard because it doesn't really show up unless it's certain light angles. Yeah. Oh, here we go. But yeah, we can kind of see it there. Yeah, Horny and the Horned, 1999 Carmageddon, Warriors, Motor Penis, which Motor Penis is just a banger of a song and a great title as well. So yeah, this is, again, kind of more raw, punky, fun black metal, and featuring of course, again, your more kind of less polished versions, because this is a live album. It features a bunch of live songs, but it's very, very good. I definitely recommend checking it out if you just want to hear these songs played live. I think for a live release, it's pretty damn good. So yeah, Impaled Nazarene, Death Comes in 26 Carefully Selected Pieces. Pretty cool release. All right. Judas Priest, Stained Class. This is the fourth studio album from this legendary English heavy metal act, and yeah, Judas Priest, much like Black Sabbath, are another band that really need no introduction. If you don't know this band, then you're frankly probably just not a metalhead. But yeah, Judas Priest are my favorite band of all time. I absolutely adore every single thing, almost not every single thing, but the overwhelming majority of what this band has done. And yeah, I could not live without this band, and this is one of their albums I could not live without. This is my third favorite Judas Priest album, eclipsed only by 2 other albums, but they're all 10 out of 10 as far as I'm concerned. So really, it's, again, picking a favorite Judas Priest album is a bit like picking a favorite child, but man, every single track on this album is a fucking masterpiece. Like the opening track, Exciter, great kind of like proto speed metal song, very influential, that even the band took their name after that. White Heat, Red Hot, Better By You, Better Than Me, the cover of Spooky Tooth is a banger. Invader, Saints in Hell is one of my favorite more deep cuts on here. And of course, Beyond the Realms of Death is one of the most beautiful songs they ever wrote. It's kind of like a bit more ballady, maybe, but I still feel like it's a bit more sorrowful and a bit more epic than your typical ballad. like it's a very well written song, and with one of the best guitar solos this band ever had. Like, my god, the riffs and solos and leads all over this album are fucking incredible. Production, I still would argue, pretty much does stand the test of time. And like, yeah, Stained Class. I dare anyone to say anything remotely negative about this album, because if you do, then you're just flat out wrong, to be honest. But yeah, I absolutely love this band, and yeah, they're my favorite band of all time. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. So yeah, I'm never gonna say no to some Judas Priest unless you put on like Demolition, which in that case, fuck you. But yeah, Stained Class, again, a band that really doesn't need any introduction, because yeah, they're a absolutely amazing band, and Stained Class is a beautiful masterpiece of an album. All right, now moving on to. All right, only a few more albums left, so hopefully this video won't be too long for some of you, because I know some of you might not like the longer videos. But we're gonna be wrapping it up like in just a few more albums here, so do hang on, please, if you're still here. Mortal Skull, Wounds Deeper Than Time. This is the fifth studio album from this Milwaukee, Wisconsin-based death metal act, and this was their comeback album that came out in 2017 after this band was dormant for about 20 years, if I recall correctly. And the two albums that came out before this one were still good, in my opinion, but definitely a big step down from the first two albums. But yeah, this was their comeback album, which I think was a pretty damn good comeback album. Like, yeah, it's kind of just, really not reinventing the wheel. It's just kind of going back and playing to their strengths, which again is just kind of nasty, grimy, old school death metal, which I absolutely love. Songs like Hating Life, which is much better than the Grave album of the same name, I will say. Against the Origin, In Judgment, the title track, Scars Within, Becoming One Flesh. Like, yeah, definitely a little bit more modern production, but still gritty, raw, and dirty like it should be. And yeah, I think this is just an absolutely killer comeback album. Like, I think maybe some of the two albums that came out after this were maybe a little bit better, but yeah, this is just another killer album from these guys. Immortal Skull, again, if you've been sleeping on this band, you desperately need to check them out. And yeah, this is just kind of them coming back and going back to what they're good at, returning to form. And yeah, again, really, I don't really have anything negative to say about this album, other than maybe it's not as good as the first two Mortal Skull albums, which is, I think few death metal albums are as good as the first two Mortal Skull albums. So yeah, that's really all I will say. It's a banger of an album. Wounds Deeper Than Time. It's pretty damn good. All right. Oh, right, they're all kind of stacking back up there, so hopefully nothing more falls over, because that would be a bit inconvenient. Next up, Mystifier, and I have to read the style because it's a bit overly long. The world is so good that who made it doesn't live here. I always mess up the title of this one because, again, it's a little overly long and wordy, but regardless, this is the third studio album from this Brazilian black and death metal slash black metal slash, some people kind of lump these guys in as kind of, one of the whole war metal bands, like alongside Blasphemy and stuff. Personally, I don't think I kind of classify them as a war metal band. They definitely have war metal elements, which, they kind of do the hybrid of like the black metal and the death metal, kind of like war metal does, and a little bit of the grindcore as well, like war metal. But they also have a bit more going on. Like, there's a lot of elements of doom on this album, a lot of elements of thrash on this album as well. But yeah, overall, this is just a very, very incredible, well-written album. Mystifier, I think, are an absolutely amazing band. In terms of that early sound, that, that odd scene where it's like the first wave and the second wave, that odd middle ground between the two, when the first wave was, dying out and the second wave was taking its place. This band fits right there alongside bands like Sabbat, in my opinion, and yeah, I absolutely love this album. Isn't my favorite? Probably not. I'm maybe a little bit more partial to Goetia, their second album, but man, I'm not going to say no to this album. Like, dude, literally every track on here I think is amazing. Like, Give the Human Devil His Due, I think is an awesome song. A Chant to the Gods of Love Venus, The Death of an Immortal, The Barbarian, Dueling with the Wise, and it features two bonus tracks as well, Church of Molested Children and Demolish the Towers of Heaven, which are both pretty awesome. And yeah, the only negative I can really say about this album is the overly wordy title, which, I mean, yeah, of course, I mean, it is a Brazilian band, so maybe something got a little bit lost in translation, but yeah, it's definitely an overly wordy title for sure. But yeah, Mystifier, I absolutely love this band. If you've missed out on this band, definitely check them out, especially if you like bands like, again, Blasphemy, Profanatica, maybe a little bit like Sadistic Execution. If you like bands like that, then you're definitely gonna love Mystifier. Beherit as well, I would say, is pretty close. Yeah, if you love bands like that, Mystifier is absolutely the band for you, and maybe one of the best metal bands to come out of Brazil besides Sepultura and like Christian, because yeah, this band's absolutely fucking awesome. Mystifier, Profanus. So this is the fourth studio album from this, once again, Brazilian black and metal, death metal, war metal, black and death metal, death black metal, whatever the hell you want to call them. This is their fourth studio album, which came out in 2001, if I recall correctly. So a few years after their first three albums. And is it as good as the first three albums? In my opinion, no. But I mean, man, this album is still an absolute ripper. Like songs like let's see, Dare to Face the Beast, Supreme Power of Suffering, Jesus Immolation with two S's and $2 instead of Jesus Immolation. Beyond the Rivers of Hades, Free Spirit Flight, Celebrate the Anti-Christian Millennium, Hangman's Noose, Ending Mortal Existence. Yeah, again, pretty much every track on here is an absolute banger. Again, I don't think it's quite as strong as the first three albums, but then again, it's like, I can kind of forgive that with some bands that are like older. It's like, yeah, you're maybe a little bit past your prime, but you're still putting out great music, and this is another great example of that as well. I do really enjoy like the album art on this one as well. And again, Mystifier, again, if you are just a fan of any of the bands I mentioned previously, like Profanatica and stuff like that, this is definitely, I would say, the band for you. But unlike Profanatica, I would say I feel like this band's sound translates a lot better to full-length studio releases than Profanatica does. So, I will say that as well. So, Mystifier, Profanus, another banger album. All right, I'm going to try to wrap these up a little bit quicker because my voice is actually feeling pretty tired now. This video's been going for 50 minutes now at this point or something. So let's just move on to the last couple albums that we have here. Oh, oops. I accidentally grabbed two albums at the same time. That'll be fine. Oppressor, Elements of Corrosion. So yes, this is the third and final studio album from this, once again, Chicago, Illinois-based technical, brutal death metal band. And much like Agony, this definitely leans a lot heavier into the more brutal side. Honestly, this might be their most, kind of just flat-out brutal album. It's definitely, I would say, different than Solstice of Oppression. I said, again, it's more comparable to Agony. It's a bit more raw, it's more gritty, it's more kind of dark sounding. And, but yeah, still, I do really, really love them. Even though, honestly, this might, in my opinion, be my least favorite Oppressor album, it's still very, very, very good. Like, songs like, again, Corrosion is a banger of a song, Kingdom of the Dead, I Despise, Through Their Eyes, Upon the Uncreation, Lost in Sorrow. Again, pretty much every track on this album, I think, is pretty damn good. Again, pretty much everything I've said about Agony also applies to this album. Again, I don't think it's maybe quite as good as the first two, but still very, very good. Again, if you like stuff like Suffocation, Pyrexia, definitely, again, mid-era Death, Nocturnus, but not quite as much on this release as compared to their previous two albums. Check this out. I think you'll definitely get a kick out of it. I know I sure do. And I still cannot get over the fact that when this band broke up, three members of this band went on to form Soil, of all bands. The band that wrote Halo, kind of, 2000s, kind of second-rate new metal band, I would say. I can't believe they formed out of the ashes of this, of all bands. That still just kind of blows me away. But regardless, yeah, killer album. Make sure the CD doesn't fall out of this one. Rat, Out of the Cellar. This is the debut album from this Los Angeles-based glam metal / heavy metal act, which, I mean, it's kind of, or hard rock act. I mean, I think it's kind of still pretty debatable as to whether or not Rat counts as a heavy metal band, which, I mean, the whole hair metal, glam metal scene is kind of a debate in and of itself as to if any of those bands are really heavy metal. Rat, I would say, are definitely more on the metal spectrum than bands like, say, Winger or Cinderella or Guns N' Roses, even though I don't really even call Guns N' Roses a hair metal band, but they definitely had some of those elements. But I don't think they're quite as heavy as, say, bands like Dokken or Twisted Sister, which to me, those are both just kind of flat out metal bands. So again, but still, regardless of whether Rat is a hard rock band or a glam metal band or a heavy metal band, regardless of how you would classify them, they are absolutely awesome, and this album is absolutely awesome. Once again, this was a record that was previously owned by my dad back when he was a teenager growing up in the 80s, so another kind of cool piece of personal history for me to own an album that my dad had. But I absolutely do love this album. Again, it's even if it's not fully metal, it's just a beast of an album. I mean, of course, Toni Collette on the album cover, which is just, I mean, she was pretty hot back in the day, so yeah, of course, that's awesome. But Yeah, I mean, of course, Round and Round is an absolute beast of a song, catchier than all hell. Then you have other songs like Wanted Man, You're in Trouble, She Wants Money, Lack of Communication, The Morning After, Scene of the Crime. I'm admittedly not the biggest fan of Stephen Piercy's vocals. I kind of compare him a little bit to like Dom Dokken, where he kind of has, not super powerful vocals. Like he's kind of just singing along. He's not really adding too much vocal wise. Not a lot of vocal prowess with this band. But again, I don't really care just because the songs are so damn catchy and so much fun to listen to. Like this is just a perfect album. If the sun is shining, you used to go out driving with the roof down, windows down, whatever, and just blast this. Even though this is obviously vinyl, I'm not going to be blasting this in the car or anything. But yeah, Warren DeMartini, one of the amazing guitarists. Like that dude was just a riff machine, and yeah, riffs on this album are all pretty damn good. The leads and solos are all really good as well. Like again, just in terms of embodying that kind of '80s heavy rock, glam metal sound, these guys did it in a way that I think was just really damn fun, but also very, very well written. Like again, this is just a well written, fun kind of hard rock album. Personally, I would lean this more towards just being kind of a rock album than a metal album, but regardless, it's still very, very good. Again, if you have somehow been sleeping on Rat, if you only know the song Round and Round, which I know is a pretty big hit, you definitely need to check them out a little bit more because their early stuff I think is very, very good. But again, you like stuff like, Dokken, Twisted Sister, Quiet Riot, kind of stuff like that. This is definitely an album for you. I'd say Rat out of the Cellar. It's a classic album, and I, for one, just really, really, really enjoy it. All right, and we are down to our final three, which the third album, ugh, I will say I actually do already have a copy of, I already talked about in this video. It's a vinyl copy of Sabbats in Venom, so I have this album on both CD and vinyl now. But yeah, again, obviously I already talked about this album, so if you somehow missed that, go back and watch that part. Even though if you're already watching this, you did watch that part. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. It's late at night. I'm just going to talk about these last two albums and get this video over with. Thor's Hammer, Damedagsnat. I know I'm probably saying that wrong, so for that I do apologize. But yeah, this is the kind of lone EP from this band. There's a little bit of debate as to whether or not this counts as like an album or an EP because it is about 40 minutes long, but there's only 4 tracks on it, and one of them is kind of like a rehearsal tape. So realistically, there's only 3 tracks on this album that are like proper tracks. But yeah, so obviously this features 2 men who would later go on to form the band Sun O, or Sun, however you want to pronounce it. Stephen O'Malley and Greg Anderson, who, yeah, which honestly, because personally I really can't stand Sun O, however you want to say it, because I just think that band is absolutely boring as all shit, and I feel like this, all these other guys' projects are literally so much better. Like literally, I'd take Thor's Hammer, Burning Witch, and Goatsnake all over Sun, but yeah, this is possibly my favorite thing these guys have ever done because my god, this is just some absolutely nasty, nasty Death Doom. And yeah, Runhild Gammelsutters. I'm sorry. If you're watching this, I absolutely butchered your name. I'm so sorry. But her vocals, especially since she was what 18 or 19 years old when she recorded this album, my god, her vocals on this album are insane. Like she goes from these very kind of haunting, like almost chant like, incantation-y kind of vocals where it sounds like she's, trying to summon like some kind of Norse god or something. Like they're very ethereal, but also very, very kind of, eerie and haunting to these absolutely monstrous death growls. Like they are just disgusting. Like honestly, this, however old she was, I know she was very, very young when she recorded this, but however old she was, she puts full grown ass men like fucking Glenn Benton or Patrick Mamali to shame. It's like you wish your vocals were as good as hers. Dude, she is absolutely fucking vicious. And yeah, I love the death growls. The vocals are honestly maybe my favorite part of the album, but man, the riffs on this album are really good too. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously, Members of Sun, it does have some very drony kind of parts as well, and like drony atmosphere, but it's just got some nasty, heavy, doomy riffs all through it as well. Some very vicious, death metal production. It's very gritty and raw sounding. It kind of does have a more raw demo-ish sound to it, but I do really, really like it. And yeah, I could go on and on and on. Like honestly, this is in terms of like metal EPs, because personally I consider this to be an EP rather than a full length. This is easily one of my top 5 favorite metal EPs of all time, at least for now. Like, dude, this album is just, or EP, sorry, this album is just fucking, however you want to classify it as, it fucking rules. It's fucking amazing, and yeah, I could go on and on and on, but Yeah, once again, my voice is getting pretty tired, so I'm just gonna move on to the last album. But yeah, Thor's Hammer. If you've slept on this band, definitely check it out because it fucking absolutely rules. All right, and the last song we're going to be talking about today, and once again, we're back to La Bresse. Hopefully, YouTube doesn't get mad at me for showing this. Witchfinder General's Death Penalty. So this is the debut album from this English-based heavy metal slash doom metal act. Witchfinder General were a very influential band to come out of the whole new wave of British heavy metal scene. Definitely different too, because like I said, these guys lean a lot more into the doom metal spectrum than say bands like Angel Witch or Diamond Head. But yeah, this to me, to describe this band's sound, it's basically if you mixed early Iron Maiden with Black Sabbath. If they had a love child, it would be Witchfinder General. And yeah, all the riffs on this album like are just absolutely amazing. Like it kind of goes back and forth between like more classic and very Iron Maiden-y, gallopy sort of riffs, and then just these very doomy, warm Sabbathy kind of riffs, and it's all very very awesome. Z Parks, again, kind of an acquired taste when it comes to vocals, especially when he hits the high notes on songs like Invisible Hate. It's like, maybe you shouldn't have done that. But, again, I do like his vocals. It fits with the music, ultimately. But, yeah, I mean, songs, again, every single track on this album is absolutely incredible. Songs like Invisible Hate, Free Country, Death Penalty, the song Witchfinder General is amazing. Burning a Singer, R.I.P. Like again, no stare there. I just named every single track off this album because there's only 7, so it's not the longest thing in the world. But my God, all these songs are just so incredibly well written. And also, I would put this maybe in my top 50 favorite albums of all time, which I won't spoil too much of that, which because I do plan on doing something with that very very soon. So do stay tuned for that. But my God, this is like one of my favorite albums of all time. I'm so glad that I finally have a copy. Once again, I absolutely love this album. I could go on and on and on about how just amazing it is. But yeah, okay, so yeah, Witchfinder General, again, if you like stuff like Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Angel Witch, Diamond Head, Pagan Altar, Pentagram, Trouble, any of those bands, Saint Vitus, any of those bands, and you somehow have not heard this, you need to check this out immediately because my God, it'll blow your socks off. So yeah, Witchfinder General, Death Penalty, once again, one of my favorite metal albums of all time. Honestly, I would put this over like a lot of other metal bands. And yeah, Witchfinder General, such an incredible, incredible band. Death Penalty, such a beautiful album, and yeah, I absolutely love it. So that concludes collection update number 9. Oh boy, my voice is tired, and it is late at night. It's currently 12:30. As of when I'm recording this, I'm gonna see if I can just quickly edit this video and upload it. But yep. Again, I do apologize for my brief kind of absence. It's been, I believe, about 2 or 3 weeks since I uploaded my last video, so I do apologize for not being around as much. But nonetheless, I am finally back. I'm planning to be making more regular videos on a semi-regular basis, so do stay tuned for those. And yep, I will see you all later. I am just another Heavy Metal Maniac. Of course, take care. Subscribe and all. If you like this video, if you made it to the end of this video, I do appreciate you all. Yeah, I'm getting loopy. I'm messing up my normal outro, but yeah, love you all. Thank you so much for watching and liking, commenting, subscribing, doing what you do. I do have channel memberships. If you're interested, you can become a channel member. Channel members get their name mentioned at the end of every video. They're only 99 cents a month. If you want to do that, please, I really do appreciate it. If you don't, then that is totally cool as well. But yeah, I love you all, and I will see you all in the next video. So take care, and so long.